Netflix has floated a test balloon around how they used AI in one particular show, and I think it's the beginning of a lot more to come. Welcome back to the AI Daily Brief Headlines Edition, all the daily AI news you need in around 5 minutes. We got another little interesting tidbit from earnings calls last week, but this time it wasn't about how much code was being completed with AI or anything like that. It was that Netflix has admitted to using Gen AI for final footage for the first time in a show that actually appeared on their screens. So this scene appeared in an Argentine show called El Eternauta, translated to The Eternaut. It depicted a building collapsing, and Netflix co-CEO Ted Sarandos said that AI allowed producers to finish the scene 10 times faster and cheaper than traditional visual effects would have allowed. Now, importantly, this wasn't, at least according to Sarandos, a case of cutting corners to save costs. Basically, in the past, a show intended for a small market like Argentina simply would have had to forego the scene because it didn't fit in the budget. This was then not a replacement for something that could have existed otherwise. It enabled a show to have a type of production quality that wouldn't have been possible before based on the economics of where it was being released. Sarandos said, "We remain convinced that AI represents an incredible opportunity to help creators make films and series better, not just cheaper. There are AI-powered creator tools, so this is real people doing real work with better tools. Our creators are already seeing the benefits in production through pre-visualization and shot planning work and certainly visual effects. It used to be that only big budget projects would have access to advanced visual effects like de-aging. But then he went on to describe how this hit show in Argentina was able to do this sequence that just wouldn't have been in the budget before." Sarandos wrapped up, "So the creators were thrilled with the result, we were thrilled with the result, and more importantly, the audience was thrilled with the result. So I think these tools are helping creators expand the possibilities of storytelling on screen, and that is endlessly exciting." Now, co-CEO Greg Peters also said that Netflix is also piloting Gen AI to drive personalization, search, and ads, and that they plan to introduce AI-powered interactive ads in the second half of the year. Now, this was a test balloon if ever I've seen one, and frankly, a pretty savvy one. By doing this first in a show that wouldn't have had the budget to have this sort of VFX otherwise, it really puts the emphasis on AI as opportunity technology, not just efficiency technology, to use a parlance from around the AI Daily Brief community. And yet by mentioning it on the earnings call, they also get a chance to see what sort of feedback and vitriol they're going to deal with. And boy, for a tiny throwaway mention on an earnings call, this got a lot of attention. If you go search Google News for Netflix AI, there are pages and pages of results. It's not just the tech press, it's the New York Times, the BBC, the Guardian, and so on and so forth. Frankly, I can't believe that it's taken this long for this to happen, but you better believe we're going to see a lot more of this in the months to come. Except maybe not in Europe. One of the weird things going on right now with AI regulation is a bit of a global balkanization, where many companies are just not willing to engage in Europe due to the restrictions of the AI Act. Specifically, Meta has said that it will not sign on to the EU's AI Code of Practice. Released earlier this month, the Code of Practice is a voluntary framework that is designed to help companies comply with the AI Act that bans training on pirated materials and provides transparency and documentation guidelines. One critical measure requires an AI company to comply with requests to remove copyrighted material from datasets, something which isn't easily done. Signing onto the Code of Practice isn't required, but it does give model companies more legal protections if they're accused of breaching the AI Act. Announcing that they won't sign on to the code, Meta's head of global affairs, Joe Kaplan, posted, "Europe is headed down the wrong path on AI. We have carefully reviewed the European Commission's Code of Practice for general-purpose AI models, and Meta won't be signing it. The code introduces a number of legal uncertainties for model developers, as well as measures which go far beyond the scope of the AI Act. Businesses and policymakers across Europe have spoken out against this regulation. Earlier this month, over 40 of Europe's largest businesses signed a letter calling for the Commission to stop the clock in its implementation. We share concerns raised by these businesses that this overreach will throttle the development and deployment of frontier AI models in Europe and stunt European companies looking to build businesses on top of them." Now, if the dispute turns into a standoff, regulation of AI could become a flashpoint for US-European relations. The Trump administration has already fired a few shots across the bow, indicating that they won't abide the EU handing down massive fines to US tech companies. In a February executive order, the White House spelled out their strategy for defending American companies from extortion. Now, we are still a little bit off from the implementation date, so it's possible that EU bureaucrats could change course. The Code of Practice still needs to receive the final sign-off from the European Commission, as well as individual member states. In addition, big tech firms won't need to comply until August 2nd, although that date could end up being delayed. UCLA adjunct professor Aaron Rao writes, "Update. OpenAI claims it will comply with the quote-unquote voluntary EU AI code. Meta says it won't." Basically, OpenAI has taken option 1, fake compliance, versus Meta doing option 3, referring to another tweet of his, principled rejection. To be clear though, US regulation isn't necessarily peachy for all AI companies either. For example, ServiceNow's acquisition of Moveworks is attracting in-depth antitrust review from the DOJ. The Justice Department opened the in-depth probe in June and are now sending follow-up requests. That doesn't necessarily mean the case will go further, but the $2.85 billion acquisition can't be completed until the probe is finalized. Interestingly, this is the first sign we've seen from the Trump Justice Department that they're concerned about market concentration in AI below the hyperscaler level. ServiceNow is, of course, a major B2B platform, but they don't create their own foundation models. If the deal is disallowed, it would have big implications for integrated agentic products. Moveworks was acquired in part to provide a data compatibility and discoverability layer for ServiceNow's agents. They currently rely on that layer, so blocking the acquisition would make both platforms far less competitive in the agentic era. The probe also raises questions about other acquisitions in the space. Salesforce made a similar integration play in buying Informatica in May, and while Meta's acqui-hire spree is technically exempt from pre-approval from the FTC, they could still end up under DOJ scrutiny at a later stage. Mostly the issue is just the time it takes. ServiceNow has already waited 4 months to close the deal, and with competition moving as fast as they are, they really don't have time to wait. Speaking of acquisitions, one more story today on that front. Anyphere, which is the startup behind Cursor, is staffing up with top talent from across the startup ecosystem in a bid to keep up with larger rivals. The latest deal sees Anyphere hire several top engineers from AI-powered CRM startup Koala. Now, reportedly, Cursor has zero interest in adding CRM to their product. They just need skilled AI engineers. The news comes as Koala prepares to shut down in September. The 4-year-old startup had recently raised a $15 million Series A, but apparently decided it didn't make sense to continue. TechCrunch writes, the Koala deal paints a picture of the two types of AI startups we're seeing in 2025. There's Cursor, a juggernaut of an AI tool that is growing so fast it's starting to encroach on the AI space's largest players, including Microsoft and Anthropic. At the same time, there's a growing number of startups like Koala, B2B AI startups that seem promising, with a co-founder from Meta and advisors like Jack Altman, but that have quickly run out of steam. This is going to be a huge reality and a shaping force in the way that enterprise AI develops in the coming year, and one that frankly I think that there is a lot of really interesting opportunity in. So much so that if you are a private equity firm or holding company who is interested in that category of enterprise or B2B companies, definitely shoot me a note. It's my initials at bsuper.ai. I think there are some fascinating things to be done in the space, as some of these startups that got funded in 22, 23, 24 just hit the wall and start to think about what they might want to do next. In any case, with that test balloon of my own floated, let's move on to the main episode.